We'd like to introduce to you the newest addition to Piney Grove, HISUN Sector 750 with the 735cc 4-stroke electronic fuel injection engine. It has 4-wheel drive with electric power steering, locking differentials, dual A-arm nitrogen assisted shocks, and a 3,500-pound standard winch. When this machine first rolled up on Piney Grove, the very first thing I noticed was how big the tires were. It is really impressive machine in general, good looking machine. This particular machine has some options on it that don't come standard. We'll talk about them later. But those tires and rims are standard and they are really beefy and they look very aggressive and capable. We have partnered with HISUN Motors and they provided us this to use out here on Piney Grove and show its capabilities. We don't have a script to say, we don't have to run it by management. We can make videos and put them out there and simply show you what a machine like this can do. This machine may look familiar to you because it's also branded as the Axis, which is sold in Lowe's, the Arcade Performance, which is sold in Rural King, and the Vector, which is sold in Home Depot. Also, the Bad Boy Bandit, sold under the Bad Boy brand of tractors and lawnmowers. So while there's multiple brands that you can buy, this is the same machine as all those other brands that I mentioned. Now, when we talk about standard features, this thing comes packed with standard features, but I want to point out that they provided this one to us with some extra accessories on it that you don't get with the standard machine. So they sent it to us with the soft cab enclosure. So this cab closes completely. This would be great for those cold weather climates and places where you're snow blowing and snow plowing. It also has a heater. A heater doesn't come standard with them. In the back here, there is a gun rack or it could be a tool rack. That's an additional option. This front bumper is different from the stock one, and attached to that front bumper is this front rack. I believe everything else on here is stock, but I just wanted to make that clear that there are a few accessories or a few options on here that you won't see in the base model. We've only had this machine about a week and only put a few miles and a few hours on it, so this is not going to be a longevity test. Also, we are not the type of people that are going to put a snorkel on this and see how high a water that it'll go through or how deep a mud it will go through. This is mainly going to be used as a farm machine, so it'll be towing a trailer. It'll have hay in the back, it'll have shovels, dirt, tools to do fencing. That's what we need out here on our 20 acres, and that's what we're going to show on our channel. I have a lot of experience with ATVs and UTVs, from two-wheel dirt bikes to three-wheelers, if you remember them from the 80s, and also the four-wheel ATVs. And I've driven a few side-by-sides, but I've never owned one. We do have Polarises at work, so there may be an occasion where I say compared to a Polaris, but the first thing I noticed after getting this machine and then looking at the Polaris at work is this has a double A-arm suspension. So instead of one A-arm here, we have two A-arms, and you can't help but think that two A-arms are going to make this machine stronger, especially if you're going over rough terrain. So notice that immediately, and then also there's a guard right here on the A-arm, and that guard is aluminum, it's not plastic, so that keeps things from bending the lower A-arm. It has shocks, like all UTVs have shocks, but it's nitrogen assist. So in addition to adjusting the tension on the shock with the two nuts at the top to either increase or decrease the spring, the tension on the spring, they're also nitrogen assist, and they have a little adjustment on them where you can tone down the ride. So if you're a real aggressive driver and you're in really bumpy terrain, you always want these tires on the ground, so you want all of that pushing down a lot so it'll absorb that shock and get these tires on the ground. If you're doing more work like we're doing out here at Piney Grove, you're probably more interested in a softer ride, so we'll probably be loosening the tension on the shock and also reducing the assist of the nitrogen. Not all machines have that option to adjust that. Staying at the front of the vehicle, we have a 3,500-pound winch with a synthetic cable, and that winch comes with a remote. It's in the glove box, I'll show you later, and that way you can control that winch from out here, especially when you're pulling that cable out when you're trying to attach to a tree or some sort of anchor and get unstuck. That way you don't have to be in the cab and also try to pull out the cable. It comes stock with a split windshield and also mirrors. and a hard top, which is under that soft top. I have a friend that just bought a Kubota side-by-side, and I'm not here to compare different brands, but here's what I will say. Everything that I just mentioned in that last segment is extra at Kubota. The hard plastic top, the windshield, the winch, all of those cost you extra. And this machine, I think, retails right around $12,000, maybe a little bit less. And the Kubota is about $18,000 without all these accessories. Another thing it has is the hard doors. So you have the hard doors there with the latch that's real easy to grab from inside the vehicle and unlatch. We have a tilt bed. It is not a hydraulic bed, meaning it's manual, but when you pull that lever right there, the bed will tilt up and it's got hydraulic assist to the bed. So you don't push a button to tilt the bed, but it does help you a little bit. So you pull that lever and you have a hydraulic assist. So if you have a full load of, say, peat moss or some gardening material, I can see that you could dump it fairly easily. I don't know where the center of gravity is, so if you had gravel in there, I don't know if you'd be able to dump it. We have big aggressive tires on the back. They're 27-inch tall tires, independent suspension on the back, and we also have the same type of adjustable shocks on the back. You can see where you can adjust the nitrogen charge. You can see the threads there and the nuts. You can adjust that tension. Exhaust is out the back. There's a receiver hitch for hooking up to trailers. And we'll turn the machine around and talk about the inside and also some more features in the back. Before I get in the machine and move it, in order to get to the hood, and the hood is right here, you have to remove this rack. But it's easy to remove. You can remove it by hand without any tools. But under this hood is where you'll find your air cleaner and your fuse box. We're not going to take it off and show you, but stay tuned to the channel. At some point I'll be doing maintenance on this machine and we'll take it all apart and show you how to get in there and change the air filter and check your fuses. One feature we really like is that the tailgate comes down just like a truck tailgate. So you have a single latch right here. Push it like that to close it, but lift up on that latch, and now you have a tailgate to sit on, you have a tailgate to do work on, to give you easy access to everything in your bed. Other ATVs that I've seen have a latch here and a latch here, and to me that's cumbersome. I really like this latch system. The bed is plastic, and I really like that. That means that I don't have to worry about trying to come in here and spray line it or worry about it rusting. The bed capacity is about 500 pounds, and I don't see the need with modern plastics to have a metal bed. I just think that a metal bed would dent easier and would rust. We got 4 tie-down points or mounting points inside the bed to keep your load secure. We have 3 rails going around the bed. Also, you can use them to tie down your load. And we mentioned that this was an aftermarket accessory or an accessory you can buy from HISUN. And this is a gun rack or a shovel or a tool rack. And this simply clamps onto the metal tubing of the frame. So let's bring you in underneath here and take a look at the suspension and the engine. Let's get up under here and take a look. You see the double A-arm suspension. You see disc brakes, which are on all 4 corners, front and rear. There's a stabilizer bar right there with a grease fitting, so you can keep that lubed. There's your shaft coming out of the engine going into your rear differential. Your single cylinder electronic fuel injected engine and your muffler. In order to get to the oil check that's actually inside the cab. So this is the view inside the cab, and one thing that I saw was this metal bar right here, and I thought that's going to be hard to get in and out of. You're always going to bump your side or your back on that, but it's not. I don't even notice that it's there. You come in it like this and you're already cleared going by there. So that gives you additional safety without getting in the way. The seat comes up, it simply pulls out of 2 lugs in the back, and then underneath here you have 2 compartments that are held in by a wing nut. So if you take these wing nuts off right here, you'll see the battery and also the auxiliary heater. This is a heated cab, and that doesn't come standard. This is the front of the engine, so you can get to some of the adjustments and also the shaft that goes to the front differential. And then the same compartment is over on that side, and that allows you to get access to your oil dipstick to check your oil. But that's what's under the seat. When we do a maintenance interval, we'll take these covers off and show you what we need to access under there when we're doing maintenance. To put the seat back in place, you got two plastic lugs right here that go into these two metal hoops. Just put the seat like this, slide it in to place, and just like that, the seat's back together. I'm going to go over a couple things that we've learned since we had this machine. So when it came off of the trailer, it was beeping. So you have a parking brake here. So if you set that parking brake and you simply push on it with your left foot to set it, and we'll see if it beeps. So I'll turn it off so we don't have to listen to that. And the reason that it beeps is because it's in a forward gear, or it's in gear. It's not in neutral. And when it's not in neutral and the parking brake is set, it beeps. In order to release the parking brake, you push down on the regular brake and the parking brake releases. So I'm going to put it in neutral, and now I'm going to set the parking brake, and you see that there's no beeping. Let's see if we can make it beep. There you go. As soon as you try to take off with the parking brake set, it's going to beep at you. Steering wheel is adjustable, so you can adjust that up and down as you get out of the vehicle. Let me go ahead and start it. So to start it, you hold the brake down and you start it. In order to change gears, you hold the brake and you pull it through the gears. And I'll show you the instrument cluster up here, but it has an LED display that says, like right now, it's in reverse. But it might not be in reverse, and this is common with the UTVs that I've driven, is it might be just a little bit unsynced until you hit the throttle a little. So I'm going to hit the throttle a little, and it's in reverse now because it started moving backwards. So then I'll go up to neutral, and it says neutral, and it's not moving, so it's in neutral. And it'll go into high fairly easily. On the top side is low, and low is a low gear, so I don't know how much you'll use it unless you're rock crawling. But in order to go into low, sometimes it feels like it's in gear, but it's not really in low. So in order not to mess up your CVT transmission, just hold the shifter forward and give it a little gas, and then you'll feel it click in. It actually already just clicked in. But one mistake I was making when we first started driving it is I was switching from reverse and trying to put it into low, and the shifter and the indicator looked like it was in low, and you step on the gas and nothing would happen, and then it would kind of lurch forward. That's not the way you're supposed to shift it into low. Hold up on this, give it a little gas, make sure it's engaged, and then it'll go into low easily, and you will extend the life of your transmission in your machine. And I found that most UTVs, no matter how much they cost, they are hard to shift. So I think it's valuable for people to learn how to shift them and to be kind of gentle in that, unless you absolutely have to, unless you're stuck and you really need to jam it in gear to try and get unstuck. But in everyday driving, take your time, shift it, and make sure it's in gear so that you don't mess up your transmission or break your linkage or anything like that. I'm going to show you what the instrument panel looks like when you turn the key on. So when you first turn it on, it looks like that. It goes through all its lights and all its checks, and the engine light stays on until the engine oil pressure comes up. You can see it's telling me to put my seatbelt on, and we'll talk about why that's important besides safety. But right now it says it's in low. So if I hold the brake and I come down, there's high, there's neutral, and there's reverse. So looking at the instrument cluster, you have your RPM gauge, you have your indicators for four-wheel drive and your locking front differential. Your left side is your coolant, and we'll talk about that, or your temperature of your engine. And your right side is your fuel gauge. And I actually leave that on when I'm filling it up with fuel, and that way I can see when it's getting close to the top so I don't overfill it. And there's our speedometer. I believe this tops out at 55 miles an hour, but I don't think we'll ever get to 55 miles an hour on Piney Grove. You've got your lighting on and off. You've got your headlights high and low, four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive, locking your front differentials. When you put in four-wheel drive, you're going to hear the motor engage, the electric motor. That says, when that's blinking right there, that says it's in four-wheel drive. And when you hit the locking front differential, there's going to be an X right there at some point. You see that X there on that second set of four-wheel drive indicators, and that means that your front differential is locked and it's going to be harder to steer because both front tires are going to want to stay straight. Hazard lights, winch in and out, turn signals. You have accessories, and I'll show you where the plugs are for them because it's pre-wired for accessories in the front and the rear. Have your standard 12-volt cigarette lighter. You have two USB ports, like to charge your phone. And then you have the auxiliary heater to heat up the cab. And the vents are right here on the top. Your glove box is over here, and in there you'll have a toolbox. You'll have your remote for the winch, and you'll also have the receiver hitch adapter. You see where it adapts to a regular 2-inch receiver hitch. While we got the hitch out of the glove box, we'll show you how that goes in. So you got your standard smaller hitch there. If you take this extension and put in the pin that's supplied, that puts it out a few more inches and then puts it standard on the side where you put your locking pin on your receiver hitch. So now you can hook up anything that you could hook up to the back of a normal pickup. Some extra wire here with a plug with nothing in it. That goes to your accessory. So if you wanted to hook something up to the back of the machine, you're also pre-wired in the front to that accessory switch. So if you wanted to hook up some accessory in the front or in the back, the machine is pre-wired for that. And I'll flash the specs up here on the screen, but it tows 1,500 pounds. But you're supposed to run the machine for 50 hours and go through your first service period before you run it at high speed, so we won't be able to see how fast it goes until we get through that break-in period. And we also can't tow a lot with it until then as well. There's a school of thought out there that says break them in like you run them. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to harm this machine. I'm going to break it in per the manufacturer's recommendation, which is in the owner's manual, and it says basically to take it easy on the machine for the first 50 hours. So I've covered all the major points about the machine. I'm sure there's some things I forgot, but there'll be plenty more videos coming up. But one thing that I forgot to mention that I found out by accident, and that is that the machine does not run correctly at high speeds or higher RPMs if the seatbelt isn't engaged. Now it will start and it will run. So if you're just putt-putting around the farm and you're going from fence post to fence post, you don't have to have your seatbelt on, you know, in between the two fence posts. But if you want to go at a high rate of speed down the road, I guess it's got a governor on it, but it'll start cutting out and it just won't achieve high RPMs or high speed. And I found that out by accident because I was just trying to learn the machine and I wasn't attaching the seatbelt and it was sputtering. And I thought there was something wrong with the machine. I came back and got to thinking about it. I put in the seatbelt and the machine runs fine. So keep that in mind. You always want to be safe. You always want to wear your seatbelt. But there are those times in a farm chore type of environment where you're getting in and out of the vehicle a lot, and I appreciate that HISUN lets you do that without shutting the machine down every time. But just remember, if you're going fast, you're going over bumps, to fasten your seatbelt. Let's go climb that little hill over there. I don't know, should we try it? I say we try it. We're in four-wheel drive, low gear, with the differential locked. Should climb up here no problem. It's not even slipping at all. That's pretty impressive, guys. I mean, no slip at all. Wow, just absolutely no slip, very stable. I was impressed. I'm not saying I didn't think it would go up there, but I didn't know that it would go up there that effortlessly. It doesn't look like much of a hill, but it's a good 5 foot tall, and it's, you know, fairly steep. It's not a, you know, a smooth, easy ramp, and it got up to here no problem. Let's do it again. But that's going to wrap up the initial review of the HISUN. But stay tuned to the channel because we're going to be using this HISUN machine just about every day we're out here on Piney Grove. We have so many things that we're doing that this will come in useful, and we'll be making videos and showing myself in it and Deb in it and just have this vehicle in a whole bunch of different situations and show you what it's capable of. But that's going to wrap up this review. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll put up a couple links to a couple more of our videos, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.